I will just start, and then I will introduce Professor Wim Weert from Leuven as one of our scientific advisory board members who are going to give a closing speech. Then Chantal would say a closing speech. I will say some words, and then at the end, Alba will. And we will also have some awards that we will hand out. So by that, I'll hand the word to you, Wim.
Thank you very much for this kind introduction. I also would like to thank EUPFF for organizing this event and for doing all this work for more than 10 years. I think it's a major achievement what they did, and I really would like to have an applause for all the people that have been involved in this, because we do this together. So I was given the difficult task to do a sort of a summary of the 3 days, but I thought, let's try to lift the tip of the future, and maybe you will look at me as being the extraterrestrial in the room at the end of the presentation. Sorry for that. It might be a bit high level, and many of the things I don't understand myself, but I would like to show you the possibilities. And so I'm sure this will shape the future of our field. And because the title I've been giving was The Future of Pulmonary Fibrosis Care, and so I added together. I think this is really important. We can only achieve this together. So I think the field has come a long way, because I always hear that there's so many unmet needs, so many gaps. But I think we should also admit that we really came a long way thanks to EUPFF and many stakeholders. And so that's why I want to take a few steps back. So that is where we come from. ILD is an extremely rare disease. Nobody ever sees it. GPs are not interested because they presume they only will ever seen one patient in their whole career, which is not at all the case, obviously. ILD is an enigmatic disease. We don't know the mechanisms behind. We don't know how it evolves. We don't know anything about it. That's why we call it idiopathic. Then patients say, the doctors don't know what I have. That's something I want to struggle, where I struggle with as well myself. So we should get rid of the idiopathic, in my opinion. Treatment is steroids. As for most chronic lung diseases, unfortunately, I see weekly patients that have been treated with steroids because some less experienced colleagues think that the world of that. And the prognosis is very grim, and that's also what we heard in the conference. If you go on the internet, it's dreadful. And so I think for us it's also difficult to deal with that, because there's an awful lot of information still there that dates from before treatment, before holistic care, and there's no way to get rid of that. If you want to change a field, you need strong definitions. If you need to identify a group of patients before you can do research, before you can initiate clinical trials. And so this is the very first strong definition dating from 2001, when I was still a student. But I think it is a milestone. Then we could only start doing clinical trials. So we had the first randomized controlled trials in idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis and the first results. And slowly we became to better understand the disease. Why initially it was called chronic fibrosing alveolitis, pointing to a long-standing inflammation, and if it was long enough there, it would lead to fibrosis. We now realize that the balance between inflammation and fibrosis is far more complicated than we initially thought. And at the right side, you can see examples of the new technology that is available, where I'm convinced it will help us out to further decipher these diseases. I will come back to that later in the presentation. Another milestone, in my opinion, is that we understood that it is not only IPF that is a progressive fibrotic disorders, but that there's many parallels between the whole field, the more than 200 different disease entities that account for pulmonary fibrosis. And we also extended clinical trials towards those patients. We now realize that some patients with fibrotic hypersensitivity pneumonitis, or the modern term BIP, might have the same grim evolution as IPF. The same holds true for rheumatoid arthritis induced interstitial lung disease with UIP pattern. And we develop clinical trials. We try to bring better tools to treat those patients as well, which I think is another major milestone. And 2025 was a real special year for us. It brought us 2 new drugs, being nerandomilast, both for idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis and for progressive pulmonary fibrosis, and treprostinil in inhalation that has been shown efficacy in patients with idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. And so this brings new possibilities, but also new challenges, because obviously these drugs will not be very cheap, and so it will bring more challenges how to bring those or make those drugs available for our patients. So how to shape the future of pulmonary fibrosis care? That was the question. I can't focus on all topics, but I decided to choose 2, is both diagnosis and treatment. And so if you ask patients, and I want to refer to the patient charter, what is important for them is early diagnosis, early accurate diagnosis, the right diagnosis. Also, how will the disease evolve? Will it be slow progressive, stable, fast progressive? And they prefer non-invasive testing. So for the future of diagnosis, I think there is many new possibilities that hopefully bring an answer to these questions of the patients. On the left, you see a multi-center trial of the use of lung ultrasound. And so we developed the idea of lung ultrasound more than 10 years ago, when we were designing the trial of patients with progressive pulmonary fibrosis, non-IPF. And we had discussions with our colleagues in rheumatology that said, you don't want us to irradiate all our patients with rheumatoid arthritis that don't have any symptoms. So alluding to the gold standard being HRCT to rule out interstitial lung disease. In the meantime, we have HRCT scans with much less radiation, but that was the start of this project. And so we were looking for a new technology that could help us to, let's say, indicate whether there was no sign of fibrosis in a patient without radiation. And so in experienced hands, still in a research setting, ultrasound of the lungs seems to be a very reliable tool to rule out pulmonary fibrosis in patients with systemic sclerosis, and there's more and more evidence also in patients with rheumatoid arthritis that it's a help. But obviously more research is needed, but I think it will find its way to clinic. We all hear the word on artificial intelligence. We also realize we should be very careful with it, but on the other hand, I think we should embrace it. And it might help us in very complex decision-taking. And so at the right, you see an example of a trial where there is an AI-based system developed by Samuel Walsh, a radiologist of the UK, that helps radiologists and clinicians to identify a certain pattern on the HRCT. So help is on the way. And there is more. This is the eNose. That is a system that sort of makes a signature from exhaled breath. You just exhale in the system, And so it designs a sort of signature based on the volatile organic compounds. These are the molecules in the air that is exhaled. And it might be helpful to identify patients with interstitial lung disease against patients without interstitial lung disease. It might be even helpful to detect whether a patient has a certain type of interstitial lung disease, but be careful, this is not ready for prime time, it's not for the individual use, it's still in research, but for large group of patients it is promising. Let's try to follow that for the future, how that will evolve. So, how should we improve the future care for pulmonary fibrosis patients? I think there's a few things that we need to take into account. Technology is there, and I'm convinced with the current technology we will be able to find the key to solve pulmonary fibrosis one day. There's a few things we need, in my opinion. If we want to develop more efficacious treatment, we should invest more in basic research. We should invest more in huge biobanks with human material, and that means blood, that means bronchoalveolar lavage, that means tissue samples, that means maybe whole lungs after lung transplantation. And mainly what we need is human material with the right data that you can retrieve from this specific patient. What is the disease trajectory? What has he or she been treated with? And that will help us to overcome some certain barriers we have in research for the moment. And so what we lack is also humanized models. We've been fooled with mouse models for more than 20 years that are far away from the human situation. And unfortunately, quite a lot of drugs that resulted from this research have failed. And I think we should think bigger as a community, as researchers, as HCPs, as patients. We should think bigger instead of thinking on how can we slow down disease progression. We should really think on how can we resolve fibrosis. And obviously end-stage fibrosis, that will be difficult. But I'm convinced in the human lung throughout the process, there are zones of early fibrosis where we should be able to resolve the damage. Obviously, that is something for the future. But I hope I can show you that we have the technology available. At the left side, this is very complex technology, but we try to decipher the part of the genetic material that is transcribed into proteins that really are the function of our body and that will determine which systems, which mechanisms will be activated or deactivated. And we try to combine that with imaging findings, and probably this multi-level approach, in my opinion, will determine the future. At the right side, there is also another AI model that try to combine the big data, the big amount of data that are generated by these very complex research projects, and try to decipher certain targets, and also try to decipher certain druggable targets. And there is very recently a first drug that has been designed by an AI model in clinical trials. I'm very curious how that will evolve. At least the time for development of new molecules might be shortened, and I'm very curious what will be the result of that. So technology is available. We have the right tools, so we should also invest in the right material and biobanks that are coupled to the right data. And so there is initiatives throughout the world that invest in that. We also highly invest in that in Leuven, where we do 80 lung transplants a year, and unfortunately, 36% of those patients have pulmonary fibrosis as an indication. And so we harvest systematically those explanted material, and we have every 3 months pulmonary function test of those patients, yearly CT scans, regular BAL samples, and we hope this can add to the research investments we can add to identify new mechanisms that will lead to other drugs. As we have plenty of access to primary human material, we also develop humanized models, like the lung on a chip model the lung on a chip model you can see here. So it's a sort of a humanized model that allows us to mimic the human situation and on a high scale test new molecules and new pathways. Hopefully that will be help as well for finding a cure for this disease. And then I think we need improved regimens. In 2014, Professor Wells from the Royal Brompton, who I was very fortunate that he would be my mentor, and a few colleagues, developed a perspective paper on combination therapy in pulmonary fibrosis. That was 2014. Obviously, we were too early, but now the era starts of combination therapy. We have 2 drugs available for IPF, one for progressive pulmonary fibrosis. There is 2 new drugs that have shown efficacy. It is time for us to develop better protocols, how to deal with disease, how to combine disease, and try to answer key questions. What is the best treatment to initiate therapy? Should we initiate with one drug, or we should start with a combination of drugs? When is the time to swap? Is it beneficial to swap? Should you change one drug to the other or add another drug? That is questions that are unanswered at this point in time, and I think it will bring more pressure to the multidisciplinary discussion. That is already covering with many key questions, the diagnostic question, the initial treatment, but probably also the evolution and the change in treatment. And so I think that also needs more expertise, and probably the quality of the care will even more depend on the quality of the expertise provided. And so I think we also need to embrace the holistic approach, not only treat patients with drugs, but also take care of other important aspects that have been elaborated in the next few days: psychological support, being physiotherapy and rehabilitation, being dietary advice. And so I hope combining all of that, we can come to a better future of our patients. But to reach that, you need an awful lot of expertise. You need expertise in science. That means you need basic science group with a lot of expertise and resources to do this type of high-level research. To give you an example, when I did my PhD 100 million years ago, it costed 25,000 euros. A project now on transcriptomics, for instance, costs between 300 and 500,000 euros. So we need resources, but I think there are examples. If you look to lung cancer, the untreatable disease for 30 years, thanks to a continuous investment, there's now miracle drugs, immunotherapy for patients that have end-stage disease, and we see like fantastic results with this treatment. And for me, it's the example: if you invest enough money, enough expertise in a disease, you can solve it. And next to that, I think you also need 2 multidisciplinary teams. You need a multidisciplinary diagnostic team to help you out to make the right diagnosis, and you need a multidisciplinary therapy team for the holistic therapeutic approach. So I think the expertise is there. but it is clear we need more resources to help us out. So the future of ILD, in my opinion, is a collective responsibility. There's no single stakeholder that can do that. That's why I say the future is together. And so I think all the different stakeholders bring their part of the expertise. So patients bring the lift expertise, patient experts, and there's plenty of patient experts here in the room. Healthcare providers should ensure early diagnosis and quality of care. Again, expertise is crucial. Researchers and industry should drive the innovation and new therapies, both in diagnosis and in treatment, and policymakers and payers should enable access and provide funding. Obviously, there is a few gaps. In medicine, we tend to work in silos, or I learned yesterday evening in bubbles. It is important, I think, that we try to break the silos or break the bubbles, and that by aligning different initiatives, by aligning huge data banks, by aligning huge biobanks, we probably have the key to solve this disease. And I want to make some publicity for my own city, which is 20 kilometers down the road, where we brew Stella Artois. This is an old building from the brewery. It's iconic. And so they want to transform it into a hotel where it will look like this. And for me, it's a perfect example how we should break silos. That's what we should do in medicine as well. So to shape the future, I think we need the full support of all stakeholders. They should provide us the right resources and support to invest in basic science. The technology is there to help us out, to highly characterize patients, to highly characterize samples, to really look into depth and identify new mechanisms. And maybe the most important task is that we all think bigger. Instead of slowing down disease progression, we should really aim for resolving early stages of fibrosis. And I see my time is up, but I think this is my main message. So let us all think alike, think bigger, and make it a bright future for pulmonary fibrosis. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Wim. Thank you sincerely. I'm not going to get up. I'm going to just hand over to Chantal van den Dongen from the Belgisch Association and also from the board of the EOPFF to close on behalf of the carriers. Floor is yours, Chantal.
Let me adapt for size. Okay, so good morning, everyone. In the name of our French-speaking and Dutch-speaking Belgian organizations, I'm proud and happy to have welcomed you into our beautiful Brussels, capital of Belgium. And we have also together celebrated the 10th anniversary of EUPFF, and that was a great event, and we are all happy to be able to attend that. Like some EUPFF member, my association is fairly small, not particularly wealthy, and with limited power or influence. We are currently advocating for the official recognition, with corresponding budgets, of course, of our specialist center, and the process seems to be slowly getting underway. Being part of EUPFF has brought us visibility, information, and support to better raise PF awareness on healthcare and political interests. But much remains to be done. The inequities discussed at the summit affect patients every day throughout all their journey. Access to treatment, access to information in a digital world, and also the language barrier impact all European countries, although at varying levels or degrees. Having led a survey on the access to oxygen therapy across Europe has made me realize how unequal access to such an essential need still exists between our European countries. I would like to add a personal note here because I am absolutely happy that for this summit, I think I have heard a number of times the mention of carers or caregivers mentioned, and that was absolutely great. And thank you for thinking about your carers here. This really is an improvement. It's awareness that's really getting very well across the patient population and probably, hopefully, also the healthcare professionals. Our local organization do need to present a united front in order to give change, to drive change. And I trust that these events like this summit will contribute to meeting this goal. I will leave you with the following thought. Getting to know and understand each other makes us definitely stronger. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Chantal.
I am the odd one out. You're right.
Do you remember at the start and the opening of the ceremony or the summit, I showed this slide, the bubble burster slide. And I'm happy to announce that I'm happy. I've heard so many in-between bubbles discussions. I've heard so many within bubbles discussions. I have patients come up to me and say, you know what? I've learned so much over the last couple of days. I really want to go back to my national organization. I need to digest. I want to contribute. I've heard in between bubbles, between patients, between carers, and between healthcare professionals, discussing areas. Let me give an example. Genetic counseling, it's not a one thing or a one bubble thing. It's an in-between thing. So basically, what I set out, and I said, I hope we can, I think we have achieved a lot within this area. So, I got a few notes on my phone this time. Okay. Then, and also to our online community, of course. Before we go through further, I would like to thank you all for your engagement. To reflect a little bit on what happened earlier today, Steve Jones, President Emeritus from our federation, he had a postulation regarding the mortality of COPD versus pulmonary fibrosis, and he said, over a 15-year life period, we will go and come back several times. And I turned to Scott Cusack from the US and I said, I did not know that Steve believed in reincarnation. And Scott looked at me, smiled, and said he's doing a bad job because he comes back as a PF patient every time. But that shows dedication, and that's what it is. We are a bunch of life-appreciating patients and dedicated industry and healthcare professionals. So by that note, I would like to hand off to Alba to continue. Thank you. Sorry. We can do the post rewards now, Alba.
We can do a people show.
Looks like it. So,
Like the Oscars. Which one do you want to do first? Or something else?
pardon?
Oh, no. Oh, sorry. Preview.
Yeah. So, we had 2 poster awards. One for the best posted, best patient-led initiative poster award. Thank you. What would I do without Alba? And the award goes to Pulmonary Fibrosis in Northern Ireland. Please come up and receive.
Okay. You can give it to her. You can take a picture with Alex.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. This is like the Oscars, isn't it? And the next one is for the Best Impact and Innovation Poster Award. And that goes to Wycor Pharma. Please come up. Ah, there you are. Gary.
Still can carry it.
Thank you.
Okay, going back to normal size. I just want to highlight a little bit on the work that Chantal, John, and Wim have been discussing today and everything we've been talking over the past 3 days. So I want to look ahead as this closing ceremony starts. And we have a couple of moments and things that we are already looking forward to. So I want to already share with you the save the date for the 2028 Patient Summit, which will be 21st to 23rd of April. And I want to as well share with you another of our initiatives, which is the Patient Advocacy Forum, which is the capacity building program that we run in alternate years, which is going to run from the 16th to the 18th of April of 2027. But we're not going to sit until then. There's a lot of work to do and a lot of things that are already happening in the background. And I want to give you a little bit of a glimpse of what UPFF is going to be doing in the meantime. We are actively already working on a new project, which is called the PF Access Index, which is going to map inequalities in pulmonary fibrosis care across Europe. As part of these initiatives, we will launch an Access Index survey, which is going to gather patient experience data to drive the real policy and change that is needed both at national and pan-European level. And we are actually hoping to present some preliminary results at the ERS Congress in Barcelona this year. We will also launch, as Chantal mentioned, we were working on the caregivers. So we're going to be launching a caregiver survey to understand and measure the caregiver needs with the ultimate goal of improving patient outcomes. Oh, thank you, slides. There you go. And finally, I want to mention as well, together with Pulmonary Fibrosis Northern Ireland, with the support of our members, we're taking Pete the Puffling's brave adventure across Europe. And we are sharing that story that explains pulmonary fibrosis with compassion of hope. Thank you, Claire. There's some copies around, by translating it to all our members' languages. I want to add as well, as Jean-Michel mentioned yesterday, we are going to be running our 2026 PF Awareness Month on the issue of early diagnosis, because we cannot normalize breathlessness, and too many diagnoses continue to come too late. To wrap up, I would like to say that these projects don't come as isolated actions. We have a lot of other work in the background, and we continue to do what we want building together. We have already have a huge list of new projects and new initiatives that have come out of these amazing discussions that we had with some of you, like John mentioned potentially about genetic counseling, or when we mentioned now in the new stage that we are of combination therapy. We need to make sure that patients are at the center of those discussions. We need to make sure that UPFF is there and we're going to be on the spot. Since our kickoff on Friday, we have done so much more than share knowledge. For me, I think it has proven that we are strengthening a community which is driven by the belief that things can and must be better. And that is something that you can simply not capture on slides on our reports. So I want to transmit that to all of you. I want to thank you all for your energy, for your time, for your commitment, and I'm very happy that you've joined us here, and I hope that we can see you in 2028. And I'll hand over back to John. Thank you.
Thank you, Alba. And to everybody's surprise, these events and things do not create and make themselves. There is a dedicated time has come to thank yous. There is a dedicated, very dedicated staff behind all of this. And to make sure I don't forget anybody, I would like, is everybody in here? I would like Anna, Natasha, Linda, Sarah, Alex, and Toddy. Please, could you come up here? And receive a well-deserved round of applause, because they have been just amazing. And of course, they've been heading, all of them by Alba, so you're very much part of this. Thank you. And then I would also like the hostesses. We've got hostesses and hosts. Caroline, Emily, Roy Mattis, Anthony Eimrich, you here. Thank you. This has been a great experience for us as well. Thank you, guys. They do not do this every day. So basically, this has been a very good experience for us as well. Thank you for all your service and your dedication. It's been delightful. Thank you.
John, could I say a word? Because these are students from our former College of Education in Tourism. So thank you, guys. That was great. Thank you.
And then I would like a special thanks to all our sponsors, because without you, we could not do and accomplish what we are doing and accomplish here today. So thank you to all of you. I'm not going to mention each one of you. You know who we are, and we know who you are very well. So thank you. And on the tail end of that, there is one person I'd really like to thank for her tireless effort and an extraordinary activity in this summit. And that's Chantal. Would you please come up to me?
Oh, wow.
Just a little token you and Albert can take home. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, guys, and also to the online audience, thank you, been wonderful and very interesting questions. So that means that we are done for today. Only thing now is to say until next time, safe travels and have a good lunch at the tail end. Thank you, everybody. Now we can have the music.